A 3-month public consultation on population policy. A hint of relaxation soon on daily amount of renminbi that can be exchanged. And Merkel complains to the U.S. over NSA spying. Good evening. The chief executive hinted this evening that regulations on the amount of renminbi people can exchange every day may soon be relaxed. He made the comments at the end of a duty visit to Beijing. Rachel Lung reports.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying met with the governor of the People's Bank of China, Zhao Xiaochun, today. He also met representatives of the China Securities Regulatory Commission and the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. On the agenda, the mutual recognition of trust funds in Hong Kong and on the mainland. They also talked about expanding the platform for renminbi financing and relaxing the daily quota of 20,000 yuan Hong Kong people are allowed to exchange right now. Leung said afterwards there is sufficient renminbi liquidity in Hong Kong and hopes there will be good news soon. The People's Bank of China, he said, has been positive in allowing a larger daily exchange quota. It's something he believes will be welcomed by many in Hong Kong. Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury Chen Ka-kung also met with mainland financial officials today. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
Steering Committee on Population Policy today revealed a consultation document on Hong Kong's population policy. The document details manpower challenges faced by the local economy and says attracting overseas talent is part of the solution. Joel De Silva reports a 3-month public consultation on the issues will continue until February 23rd next year.
With an unemployment rate of just over 3%, Hong Kong is now almost at full employment. The consultation document unveiled by the Steering Committee on Population Policy notes that the tight manpower situation is already obvious in many economic sectors, a situation that is bound to worsen from 2018, when Hong Kong's labour force will reach its peak and start declining. One of the possible solutions, according to the document, lies in importing more labour despite the local resistance to such measures.
We are very aware of the sensitivity of the subject of importation of labour. We are not suggesting that we should throw away the current conditions or the current controls over the importation of labour. But the facts and statistics in front of us indicate very obviously that we are short of labour in certain sectors.
In this quest for global talent, the task force lays down a number of recommendations. They include aligning talent admission schemes with Hong Kong's economic development strategy, targeting specific groups of talent that facilitate the development of specific industries, proactively promoting Hong Kong as a place of opportunities, and eliminating existing barriers by making this city a more attractive place to live and work. Despite this, the Steering Committee underlines that such policies must not be detrimental to local workers.
We must not jeopardize the interests of local workers. In other words, the interests of local workers will come first. No local job displacement in the first place, no suppression of wages. This is not our objective. Our objective is to replenish, supplement the labour force to enable the economy to grow.
Indeed, the consultation paper emphasizes the need to make up for the shortage of labourers by recommending that conditions be created for those locals aged between 15 and 64 who are economically inactive, such as female homemakers and early retirees, to go back to work. Still, the paper recognizes if Hong Kong is to remain a world city and retain its economic vitality, more foreign workers will have to be part of the equation. While the consultation paper clearly states that Hong Kong needs to attract more overseas talent, the Chief Secretary recognizes that obstacles such as high housing costs, low air quality and a lack of vacancies in international schools are standing in the way. Joel De Silva, TVB News.
The Steering Committee on Population Policy also looked at how to boost the local birth rate. It says better working conditions for women may be more effective than cash incentives. Jenny Lam reports.
There have been recent calls for the government to set a ceiling on Hong Kong's population, given how crowded the city is. But the Population Policy Task Force sees no evidence of a sudden surge in the number of people in the territory. In fact, Hong Kong's problems, it found, are an ageing population, a low birth rate and consequently a shrinking workforce. Encouraging people to start a family, the task force believes, is the answer.
In this particular respect, we have looked at the practices in overseas countries, including Singapore and some of the Nordic countries and so on. By and large, they evolve around subsidies, cash subsidies of various forms, tax incentives of various forms, and also services, just like better childcare services, better medical services in terms of those couples who need assistance, and in reproductive technology.
Other recommendations include paid parental days off, subsidised childcare and after-school care, and a family-friendly working environment. The Chief Secretary for Administration also suggested that both the government and the private sector should explore better employment policies to enable women to remain in the workforce, for example, by offering part-time positions. But bringing mainland children to Hong Kong, she stressed, is not the solution. That's because it is difficult to predict whether they will stay here to contribute to the community when they grow up. She also said the medical and educational expenses these children may take up can cause problems. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
An investigation by the Office of the Ombudsman has found over 60% of shops selling chilled meat fail to comply with storage regulations. The office says that's partly because Food and Environmental Hygiene Department officers tend to turn a blind eye to the problem. Stephanie Choi reports.
By law, shops selling chilled meat must store their products at between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius. In a sample of 46 shops all over Hong Kong, the Office of the Ombudsman found that over 60% of them failed to comply with the rules. Some stored chilled chicken meat in unrefrigerated plastic boxes, and others were suspected to have been selling chilled products as fresh meat. Staff from the Ombudsman's office went back to the stores a month later. Nearly half of them were still breaking the rules. This, the Ombudsman warned, risks bacterial growth and poses a health hazard. He called for improvement on the part of the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, or FEHD.
And for example, over 90% of the shops were inspected by FEHD inspectors only once every 5 months. We believe that this sort of frequency is not good enough.
When a store is found to have broken regulations, FEHD officers will issue a verbal warning and give the shop 2 days to bring it back to compliance. The Ombudsman said that's not enough because without frequent checks by officials, shops can break the rules again once they've passed the re-inspection 2 days after the warning. Here at a chilled meat stall in Wan Chai, shoppers get to pick their own favorite cuts. Now, there are more than 1,000 of such stalls around Hong Kong, and between 2009 and 2012, the government issued verbal warnings, but none of these stalls lost their licenses. The Ombudsman believes FEHD inspectors are lax, partly because there have not been that many cases of food poisoning linked to eating chilled meat. Recommendations for improvement include more frequent inspections, stepped-up action against shops that break the rules more than once, and better public awareness of the problem. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
More trouble for the U.S. National Security Agency after German Chancellor Angela Merkel learned American intelligence may have tapped into her mobile phone. The White House has denied her phone is being monitored, but as Alan Booknear reports, it did not say it never happened.
Angela Merkel said that if the charges are confirmed, it would be a serious breach of trust and completely unacceptable. The White House said U.S. President Barack Obama spoke with Merkel on the phone and assured her the NSA is not monitoring and will not monitor the communications of the Chancellor.
The United States greatly values our close cooperation with Germany on a broad range of shared security challenges. As the President has said, the U.S. is reviewing the way that we gather intelligence to ensure that we properly balance the security concerns of our citizens and allies with the privacy concerns that all people share.
But the statement stopped short of saying that the U.S. had never monitored or obtained Merkel's communications. Merkel had already raised concerns over electronic eavesdropping when Obama visited Germany in June. She's once again demanded answers from Washington over the extent of the surveillance and backed calls for greater protection of European data. It's just the latest revelation following concerns that were raised by France, Brazil, and other countries. U.S. allies knew the American government was spying on them, but they had no idea just how much. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration is trying to figure out what's causing illnesses that have killed almost 600 dogs since 2007. The problem appears to be tied to dog pet treats made in China, but investigators have yet to find out the cause. The symptoms leading to the deaths include kidney failure and gastrointestinal bleeding. Several products have been removed from the market, including Wagon Train and Canyon Creek Ranch, made by Nestle Purina, and Milo's Kitchen chicken jerky treats and chicken grillers by Del Monte. Other products remain on the shelves, and the FDA doesn't want a recall without a definitive cause. It's appealing to pet owners and veterinarians to provide them more information.
A German bishop has been temporarily expelled from his diocese by Pope Francis. This while the Catholic Church looks into how he managed to build a €31 million home. The church will be scrutinizing all the bishop's expenditures, but at the center of the investigation will be this residence complex. 53-year-old Bishop Franz Peter Tabarts van Elst said the €31 billion was actually for 10 projects, and there were additional costs because of regulations on buildings under historical protection. The Vatican said he'll be expelled pending the outcome of a German church investigation. But fellow bishops and lay Catholics in the diocese expressed doubt that the bishop in question would ever be able to return.
Welcome back. The Ombudsman has also found the Department of Health does not have basic information on certain healthcare providers that are not regulated by law. Jenny Lam reports.
The Ombudsman's office investigated a number of services that offer medically related services following a spate of problems with cosmetic treatments. Optometrists, clinical psychologists, nutritionists, speech therapists and a string of other services that offer healthcare treatments are not regulated by law. The government allows many of these care providers to form professional associations which are supposed to regulate the practice of their members. But the Ombudsman found that not only does the Department of Health not provide any help to these associations, officials often do not understand the nature of these organizations. In fact, some of the rules for these groups are so lax that members only need to express an interest in order to join. When things go wrong, the government is unable to make an accurate assessment of the problems.
We believe that even if the government decides that some of these healthcare professions need not be included in the regulatory framework, it does not mean that the department should not continue to obtain adequate information about the operation of these professional bodies.
People who work in beauty parlors, for example, can provide medical treatments without any medical qualification. The Ombudsman recommends a comprehensive review of the policies to see if these healthcare providers should come under regulations. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
The police and the hospital authority have come under fire from the Privacy Commissioner. In one particular case, a police officer lost 17 notebooks used to record names and identity card numbers of members of the public, and medical records of patients were improperly discarded by the hospital authority. Vicky Kung has more details.
Human errors and a faulty monitoring system are putting Hong Kong people's privacy at stake. The Privacy Commissioner cited in his latest reports 11 data breach incidents involving the police between October 2011 and January 2013. One of the most serious breaches involves an officer who lost 17 notebooks while going to work by bus. Police officers are supposed to keep only one notebook for them to write down information such as details of traffic offences and witnesses' statements. If a police officer wants a new notebook, he or she has to return the old one and the replacement must be approved by a supervisor. But it was found that some notebooks were given out without senior officers' endorsement, indicating a failure in the monitoring system.
The legal requirement does not require an absolute guarantee on protecting personal data. The requirement is to take reasonably practicable steps to prevent irregularities from happening. On this basis, we have therefore issued an enforcement notice requiring them to take measures to remedy the situation.
The Privacy Commissioner asked the police force to set up a more efficient mechanism to verify reasons for notebook retaining, dedicate workers to follow up on the return of unendorsed notebooks, and to carry out monthly inspections to make sure the rules are followed.
If the police put in place all practical measures, the main ways to deter officers from accidentally leaking sensitive information are to enforce disciplinary actions and to have them stay alert.
Meanwhile, the hospital authority also received an enforcement notice requesting it to monitor the disposal of patients' records. This comes after a passerby discovered appointment slips and damaged thermal ribbons with patients' details left on roadsides. Vicky Kong, TVB News.
A construction contracting firm is seeking $300 million extra payment from Chun Kan Holdings chairman Li Ka-shing for building a Buddhist retreat in Tai Po. Chunwo Development Holdings said the design of the project was changed again and again. That has bumped up the cost considerably. Speaking during a hearing at the High Court today, Chun Kang's lawyer said the payment Chunwo is seeking involves about 1,000 construction items, and Chun Kang needs time to go over them. The court allowed Chun Kang 1 week to come up with a defense argument. Britain's 3-month-old future monarch, Prince George, was officially christened yesterday. The momentous occasion brought together 4 generations of the royal family. A moment of history was celebrated for the christening of Prince George Alexander Louis of Cambridge. The occasion called for the presence of Britain's 87-year-old monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, and the 3 future kings, Prince Charles, Prince William, and the guest of honor, Prince George. The ceremony may have been intimate, but every detail of the christening held symbolic meaning, such as the future king's exquisite lace christening gown. It's a replica of the same christening outfit worn by Queen Victoria's eldest daughter in 1841. Even though it was well over a century old, Prince William was christened in the original gown in 1982. The venue for the ceremony was also carefully chosen. The Chapel Royal at St. James Palace was where Princess Diana's body lay in state the night before her funeral in 1997. Equally symbolic is the fact that water from the River of Jordan, where Christians believe Jesus Christ was baptized, was used to christen Prince George. Outside the 16th century chapel, crowds of royal watchers gathered to catch a glimpse of the 21 arriving guests. Over at Buckingham Palace, the masses enjoyed the usual pomp and ceremony. Folks say they're overjoyed that Prince William and his wife, the Duchess of Cambridge, are raising George on their own.
They are a family. They are living as a family. She's bringing up the child in a family unit, and I think that is wonderful.
One thing's for certain, this future king will be well taken care of. That's because William and Kate have selected a total of 7 godparents. A lucky number for one lucky prince who will now be loved 7 times more. That is one royal wrap of our news. Thanks for watching.
Cute kid. Good night.